Hey guys, welcome to another Pokemon challenge from yours truly, Darkness the Curse. Was that a good intro? I'm not even sure. I just kind of went with it. Anyway, happy spooktacular October Halloween. It's spooky time. And I wanted to do a spooky style run, because 'tis the season for spooks. Ooh, yeah. As you saw in my last video, I kind of wanted to do Missing No, and that didn't really work out very well. But I did figure out what was going wrong, so that was good. But I decided not to bother with that because, you know, Missing No really isn't a Pokemon. But you know who is a Pokemon? The original Spook Master himself, all the way from Gen 1, Gastly. Oh yeah, come on. It's Gastly. It's like the original Ghost Pokemon. And I figured, you know what? Let's do a run with just Gastly. Only Gastly, no items. Oh yeah. The usual rules apply. I'm not going to bother reading them again. There they are. Look at those rules. You know them. You love them. Only Gastly. Only other Pokemon for HMs. No cheating and no items in battle because I hate myself. Yes. Alright. Now in terms of Gastly's stats and what we're going to have to work with here, his stats leave a bit to be desired in basically every aspect but two. Now, the two that are good, however, are speed and special attack. So what we're looking at here is basically a prototypical glass cannon, who will be able to one-shot things, in theory, assuming I teach him the proper moves. And speaking of that, another insane benefit for Gastly is that while his normal moves that he learns by default aren't exactly the best, his TM-HM list is huge. Like, for a Pokemon like him. I didn't think a lot of the moves that were on here were things he could even begin to learn. Like, he can learn things like Zap Cannon and Thunder. He can learn Psychic, which makes a little more sense than any of the electric moves, basically. He can also learn Giga Drain, randomly. I don't really get that one. But the point is, we actually have some stuff to work with, despite the fact that he'll be kind of squishy for always, the entire time we're dealing with him. But it's okay. Can we get through Pokemon Crystal with just a Gastly? Let's find out. Now, when I started this, it actually didn't dawn on me, as it should have, what I was getting myself into. See, there's a thing about Ghost Pokemon that I'm sure at least a handful of you have already thought about as soon as I brought up that I was using Gastly for this, in that Ghost Pokemon using Ghost moves, well, any Pokemon using a Ghost move, can't actually hit normal-type Pokemon at all. Now, the benefit there is that Ghost Pokemon can't be hit by normal-type attacks, which is neat. But when you're only rolling with just a Gastly, and most of the early trainers have things like Rattata and Pidgey, because this is Gen 2 and birds hate me. You know, suddenly, I have run into a bit of a snag in my run, in that I am suddenly forced to struggle everyone to death, because almost everyone I run into has at least one normal-type Pokemon, usually a Rattata, or a Pidgey, or a Hoot, or something that is just going to wreck me. And by wreck me, I mean stare at me, because most other things can't actually hit me either. I want you to look at this. This was my first trainer battle. He threw out a Rattata. That's all he has. Normally this is really easy, but all of a sudden, I have nothing to hit him with. Gastly's only attacking move early on is Lick, which is a Ghost-type move, and I don't even get why. It's just Lick. Like, why is that Ghost? Why do you need to be a Ghost to lick something? Also, why is that even an attack? Anyway, so this is insane, because all of a sudden, I can't hit him, he can't hit me, and all we can do is just stare at each other until I inevitably run out of power points and am able to struggle him down. This is a recurring theme in the first part of this playthrough, because most of those awesome TMs I just talked about, yeah, I can't get to them until a bit later in the game. So, this is gonna be annoying. You know what else was really neat? Having trouble with the High Priest again. And I don't even know how that keeps happening. Like, he gave me some trouble with Paris, and I kind of got that because he had type advantage with his flying type, but now he has a Hoot. See, I can't hit the Hoot because it's part normal type. Because, again, I just can't win today. But you know what the Hoot can do? Hit me. No, No, it doesn't know a flying move. That would be too simple. No, it knows Foresight, which identifies me. And whenever you use that move, and it's very situational, suddenly normal type is able to hit ghost type. And suddenly, the Hoot Hoot is tackling me in the face, even though it shouldn't be able to do that. This is a problem. I had to retry the High Priest several times before I finally was able to struggle through the stupid Hoot Hoot. It really wasn't the Bellsprouts. It was just that one stupid bird. And you know what else was great at this point? And this is entirely my fault. I concede that this next bit is entirely my fault, but I just need to tell you because it's funny. So, one of the things that Gastly is able to learn at level 16 is a move called Curse. Now, Curse isn't actually a typed move. It's weird and off-center and doesn't really make a lot of sense. But basically, Curse lets me cut my own HP. You see the problem right now. And it puts a curse on the enemy. And it will drain them of up to 1/4 of their HP every single round. So it's like a way stronger poison attack, basically. And if not for the fact that it would cut my HP in half, that would be fine. Here's the major issue with Curse in this situation. Because I have to struggle, basically, to kill anything, you know, I can't use items during battle. And I need to drain Curse's power points somehow. And the only way to do this is to use it, which means I have to cut my own HP. Do you see the situation I suddenly found myself in? This was the stupidest thing in the world. I didn't even think about it before I, equipped Curse. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, what have I done? Oh no. I had to restart the game. Fortunately, I wasn't that far in, but still, it was annoying. What else was annoying is every time I was trying to reduce my power points early on, I was doing it so early that Gastly would just learn moves. Just because you couldn't say no to them if you had empty move slots. So I'd be in the middle of a battle, and then all of a sudden, oh, what's that? He learned Spite? Oh, that's great and all, but now I have to reduce Spite's power points too! And the saga continued from there. Faulkner proved to be a bit more annoying than I was expecting, mostly because of the struggle thing. I had to struggle through this fight. Eventually, I thought about a strategy I could use. See, Gastly also knows Hypnosis, which isn't as good as Spore was on Paris because Hypnosis has lower accuracy. However, the issue I was having with Faulkner wasn't so much that I couldn't struggle down his Pidgey and Pidgeotto. The issue was that his Pidgey liked to use Mud Slap, and Mud Slap lowered my accuracy. And I usually had to take at least 2 of those before I could bring down the Pidgey. This was a problem, because by the time I got to the Pidgeotto, I started missing. And missing when you're already struggling is not good. So my strategy called for me to reduce all my power points except for a single one on Hypnosis. This gave me a free shot on Hypnosis, and even though it might have missed, it still might hit. And I lucked out. My only Hypnosis hit the Pidgey, and I was able to bring it down without it waking up. Then I was free to struggle against the Pidgeotto without any lowered accuracy, and I was able to win the fight. I still can't believe I have to fight a gym leader this way, but I am the one that picked this challenge, aren't I? So, it's really my fault, and nobody else's. Getting to the cave wasn't too big a deal. None of the trainers in here actually have any normal-type Pokemon as far as I could tell. At least none of the ones that I ran into. So I didn't have to worry about having to struggle. I did almost lose the trainer right outside the cave because his Geodude knew Rock Slide, and that was neat. I almost wish I had been struggling because at least then I would do more damage. Lick is a very low damaging move. It's really not good. Fortunately, it was about that time that I learned Nightshade. Nightshade is a much, much better move than Lick is. It still isn't solving the problem because it's still a ghost move, but at least when I can use my moves, I'll have a much powerful move at my disposal. Now the Rockets and the Slowpoke, well, I wasn't worried about, except for the fact that the very first one has 2 Rattata. I think you see where this is going. You know, some of them had poison types like Coughing and Ekans, and that was great, but then some of them also just had more Rattata. And, you know, I'm not really in the mood to deal with that today. I didn't think I would have to struggle against the Rockets, but I did. That's what happened. Fortunately, I was given a much-needed reprieve after that because Bugsy's gym has nothing but Bud Pokemon. And I just Nightshaded the entire gym and swept that whole thing. Because by this point, I was way over level because of the struggle strategy. And Bugsy was not much of a challenge at all. Though I am seriously getting worried about the gym after this. but we'll get to that in a bit. My rival fight went fairly smoothly, though it did reveal a small issue I'm probably going to run into in the future, in that my rival really likes using the move Curse with his Haunter. This is a problem, because Curse does so much damage. Just so much damage, and his Haunter tends to come out pretty early, so I may have some difficulty dealing with him later. Speaking of difficulty, I managed to get to Whitney's gym, and oh, this was not good. There are no TMs around that I can teach Gastly, and one of the only moves he learns that isn't a ghost type is pretty far off in terms of the grind scale. So basically, I have to struggle through an already really annoying gym. And oh boy, howdy did Whitney make this hard. Her Clefairy can only seemingly use Metronome for the most part against me, which, great, except that just means that my chances of beating her are a shot in the dark and a random draw. Now, sometimes she used moves that were actually beneficial to me. Sometimes she used moves that were completely crippling. It just depends. You know, it's just whatever she felt like. It didn't matter. You know, it's fine. I get this is a random pool of moves. It's not you, it's the move itself, but anytime you want to stop, that'd be great. I could usually struggle through Clefairy just fine, but it was the Miltank. Of course, that was the major issue here. Rollout is just so hard to deal with, and Spook is so squishy. Just so squish. This was brutal. I went to grind a lot, usually struggle just to grind and only healing with potions, because frankly, I got really sick of having to exhaust all my power points after any time I had to do this. So most of my grinding was done with struggle, which also helped me gauge how much damage struggle was doing to try to see if it was possible to beat her. I did beat her, eventually, but frankly, I don't actually know how many times I fought her. I have no idea. I still don't know. I didn't bother counting. But I can assure you, it was a lot. Like, way more than was reasonable. I eventually got lucky, and Miltank actually missed with rollout. Twice. And that was enough to give me the edge to actually put the cow out to pasture. Finally. Just... So with that awful gym out of the way, the one gym that I was really genuinely worried about, we finally can progress and continue our quest. The next rival fight was pretty obnoxious. Not gonna lie, I was pretty annoyed. Because again, he really likes using Curse, and a lot of his Pokemon, oddly, have moves that are super effective against me, which is a thing I didn't really predict, but it's a thing that I have to worry about, so yeah, that was fun. I beat him, but it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Next up was Morty, which is a gym fight I was expecting to go either way. It didn't really matter, because there was no type advantage here. There was just types. There was just a lot of haunting going on, is what I'm trying to say. Though by this point, I did have one solid benefit that I didn't really predict when I started this playthrough, and that was Dream Eater. Now, Dream Eater is not often considered that great of a move because they have to be asleep in order for you to use it. But the thing about Dream Eater is that, to begin with, it's a psychic move. So, I can finally hit things that are normal type without having to struggle. So that's always nice. But following that, Dream Eater hits like a truck. It is a really strong move. And if I get lucky with Hypnosis, it can win me entire fights. In addition, Dream Eater also heals Spook, which is a factor I forgot about, and it heals a lot, like way more than Giga Drain does. So I was able to power through Morty using a combined Nightshade Dream Eater strategy. It worked, and I was genuinely surprised by that. Next up, we headed over to Cyanwood City, as you might expect, to get the medicine for Jasmine and take on Chuck. This gym was a sweep. There was no issue. Most of the fighting Pokemon went down because I was able to put them to sleep, and again, Dream Eater's psychic, so I just insta-killed them. There was no challenge here. It was probably the smoothest, easiest gym I've had so far. Jasmine, on the other hand, put up a little more of a fight. Mostly because her Magnemites really like confusing me and paralyzing me, as they do in the remakes. It also revealed to me that paralysis is a massive problem for Spook, because like I said, Gastly's a bit of a glass cannon. So if I am moving second that is a huge problem. I need to be able to take out these Pokemon, or at least put them to sleep before they can hit me. And that's not always possible, especially if one is paralyzed, where it's basically impossible, as you might expect. I did manage to beat her, however. Despite Steel-type's resistance to Dream Eater, they are not resistant to Nightshade. At this point, I haven't actually taught Spook any TMs, though I do have the TM for Shadow Ball, which I think I'm going to give him eventually, but not quite yet. I'm going to see how far I can get with just Nightshade and Dream Eater alone. Next up, we have the Red Gyarados and the Rocket Base. Nothing too special here. I was able to get through it pretty easily. I had to go back to the Poké Center a few times, but that's normal for playthroughs like this. Price put up a little more of a fight. I didn't have any type advantages, though he didn't have any super effective moves. I was terrified this entire fight of getting frozen, because frankly, at that point, I'm just dead. I was able to power through on my first try, but it was a little close because he managed to hit me with Blizzard, which is always a bad thing. After that, we head back to the radio tower, as you might expect to stop Team Rocket. I didn't have anywhere near the difficulty in this place like I did with the Paris playthrough. Gastly's damage output just far and away exceeds Paris, and he has way better typing for this situation, especially since Team Rocket really likes poison types. Gastly is Ghost Poison, so I was resistant to a lot of moves that they were using, like Sludge. I also didn't have to worry about getting poison myself, so that was a nice perk. Making my way back to Blackthorn, and isn't that an edgy town name? Blackthorn City, the place where all edgelords are born, the origin of the power, the edge, the Shadow the Hedgehog of Pokemon cities, the infinite of Pokemon cities. I'm sorry, I had to. Anyway, Claire's gym, the Dragon Gym, was some concern for me. I didn't realize how much of a concern until I fought the first trainer and lost to the first regular trainer. Why? Because a lot of these dragons, particularly the Dratinis and the Dragonairs, know Thunder Wave, which paralyzes me. And that is the worst thing that can possibly happen. I basically had to get lucky and hypnosis these things quick enough. But the thing about hypnosis that I really haven't brought up in thorough detail so far is that hypnosis is not like Spore, and I can't stress that enough. Spore had a pretty decent shot of hitting, basically all the time. Hypnosis just fails. Just because. It just doesn't work sometimes. Its accuracy is a lot lower than you'd think. Nowadays, Hypnosis accuracy has actually been buffed to 70%, but back then, it was 60%. It misses almost half the time. And that is a risky play if you're a gambler. Eventually, I do get lucky and power through Claire's gym. I beat her on the second try. Her Kingdra decided it was going to be Kingdra again, because of course it was.
That's right, mortal. How dare you come into my domain once again and expect to win with your spooky nonsense. You think you can scare me with that ball of gaseous poison? I am Kingdra, the Alpha and the Omega.
The second time I put Kingdra right to sleep and insta-killed him, so that was good. After that, it's onward to the Pokemon League. But again, I feel like I'm struggling a lot when it comes to these trainer battles. Gastly is so hit and miss when it comes to the Glass Cannon. Basically, if Hypnosis doesn't work, I take a free hit to the face. That's just the nature of Dream Eater. And it's not like Gastly can learn a more reliable sleep move like Spore, so I'm kind of stuck like this for the moment. I could be using Nightshade, but it's about this point that Nightshade really isn't doing all that great in terms of damage output. Speaking of this, the rival fight, the final one, proved to be really annoying because of Sneasel. Sneasel is Dark type, so he actually can't be damaged by Dream Eater, so I have to use Nightshade, which basically means Sneasel gets free hits. Golbat also really had a nasty habit of not being put to sleep, like, ever, so that was also great, because Golbat knew Bite, which did super effective against me because I'm Ghost type, as one is. Once I got through these two, I didn't really have any issues with the rest of his Pokemon. Even Haunter really wasn't that bad, as he didn't try to use Curse all that often. Even when he did, I could power through the last two without dying to Curse because I could feed off of the enemy Pokemon with Dream Eater. Of course, that requires them to be put to sleep, which is a totally separate issue, but frankly I wasn't beating them if I wasn't doing that anyway, so it wasn't really that relevant. Now we're at the Pokemon League. This is where things got real, because of Will. Now Will is the Psychic Gym leader, and last time we were here with Paris, this was a cakewalk because Paris actually had type advantage in this situation. Gastly does not. quite the opposite situation because Psychic is super effective against us. And since that's one of the most powerful moves in Generation 2, this presents a bit of a problem. I didn't wind up grinding here. What I did is finally, I should have done this way sooner, finally teach Spook Shadow Ball. I decided to replace Confuse Ray with it because, frankly, Confuse Ray hadn't done much for me in quite a while. It didn't help that it doesn't stack with sleep like it does with paralysis. I mean, it does, but they can't be confused and asleep. They don't hit themselves while they're asleep, you know? Whereas when you're paralyzed, it's way funnier, because not only do they have the chance of not move at all, but they have a chance to hit themselves, so it's better in that situation. But not here. So, now that I have 3 attacking moves, plus Hypnosis, I think I'm in a much better position. With Shadow Ball, I'm actually able to sweep through Will's team, because Shadow Ball is super effective against all his Pokemon. So that was a nice change off on my part. For once. Koga also wasn't that difficult, not nearly as bad as he was when I was Paris. It mostly came to me to figure out which moves were better against certain Pokemon, whether to use Shadow Ball or Nightshade, or whether to try to put him to sleep. I usually only tried to sleep his Fortress because that thing's annoying and it just sits there and absorbs damage. Dream Eater does a pretty decent chunk of it, and if it's asleep, it can't do anything to me. Not that Fortress does much except you spam Protect and waste my power points. Thanks for that, you jerk. Bruno was a bit more of a problem, but only because his was down to pure luck. A lot of his Pokemon have pretty powerful moves that can hit Gastly, but I can one-shot them if I can put them to sleep. You see where we're at again. For the most part, I didn't have too many issues, but then I got to Karen, who I was worried about. And I was right to be worried about this fight, because I don't really have much to throw at her. To begin with, she's a Dark-type trainer, so all but one of her Pokemon are not affected by Dream Eater at all, and they're resistant to most of my moves. It was a weird situation I found myself in, where I was still trying to put these Pokemon to sleep because most of them could one-shot me with Feint Attack, but I wasn't actually using Dream Eater on them. I was using Nightshade or Shadow Ball, one of the two, whatever I really felt like at the time, frankly. It didn't really matter which one I used, as for the most part, neither one did any more damage to the other, at least against these things. Gengar, oddly, was the easiest one. He went right to sleep, and then I could use Dream Eater on him. Because again, why does she have that? Why is that? I don't get why she has a Gengar. That's not a Dark type, Karen! It's okay. We're on to Lance. The ultimate challenge. Well, not really, but almost the ultimate challenge. And he was a lot easier than I thought he was going to be. I beat him at a way lower level as Gastly did as Paris. But again, the fight did come down to blind luck when it comes to Hypnosis. Dream Eater was very strong against him, and as long as I could put his Pokemon to sleep, I could take them down for the most part in 1 or 2 hits. This was a big deal. But again, I ran into a problem that his Dragonites really like using Thunder Wave on me, and that's rude. I don't really appreciate that. Please stop. He didn't stop. Ever. So it came down to me being able to put him to sleep before he paralyzes me. Fortunately, Gastly was faster than all his Pokemon, so that was the one benefit I had, and I really tried to exploit that during this fight. It did take a few tries, but I was able to power through and get Gastly solo as part of the Hall of Fame in Gen 2 Johto League. Oh yeah. So at this point, you're probably wondering, are you going to challenge Red this time? You didn't do it with Paris. You wussed out. We were really mad at you. Alright. You guys have been so supportive, and I really mean that. The comments and the new people I've gotten on the channel have been so overwhelmingly positive and helpful. I'm really glad you guys are here, and it really means a lot that you've been enjoying these playthroughs so much. It makes what I'm doing feel worth doing, and I like that. So, for you, because I know everyone's going to call me out for it if I don't try, I'm going to try to beat Red. That being said, I powered through Kanto without any issues whatsoever, with the sole exception of Blue's Rhydon, which it turned out could one-shot me with Earthquake. That was neat to learn. I put him to sleep and dealt with that, but yeah, that was the only problem I had, though. Everyone else was a cakewalk, as running through Kanto at this point in the game usually is. Speaking of other things part of this series, I almost forgot to mention it. All my HM slaves are again named after rock stars, and one pop star. Feel free to guess in the comments. I'm having fun doing that. I'm also trying to look up rockstar names every time because I often forget them. Go figure. In any event, now we're on to Mount Silver, and the final fight with Red. Logistically, I should probably be training way up for this fight. I should not be going in with Spook at the level he's at, but you know what? Let's do it. Because why not? I feel daring today. Or rather, I did when I recorded that footage. And I wanted to prove that it could be done. So that's how it went. Pikachu wasn't a big issue, but the big issue turned out to be Snorlax. Now, Snorlax is normal type, so my Ghost moves are out, which means I have to Dream Eater him down. The problem with this is Snorlax really likes using Amnesia, and that makes Dream Eater effectively impossible. He'll just rest every time. And you'd think resting would give me an advantage, because then I could use Dream Eater all the time, but I cannot do enough damage against Snorlax when he's asleep, and if he's already used Amnesia, and he always uses Amnesia before he rests for some reason. So, this is an issue. Eventually I figured out, if I could put him to sleep, and if he stayed asleep for 4 Dream Eaters, which, I admit, is pushing my luck, I could bring him down. From then on, I could one-shot the Espeon with Shadow Ball, and then it's just his starting Pokemon, Blastoise, Charizard, and Venusaur. Venusaur wasn't too tough, but Charizard could one-shot me with Flamethrower, so I had to put him to sleep. Once I got through Charizard, though, Blastoise wasn't too difficult to deal with, and you're never gonna believe it. I still don't really believe it. But I won! I did it! I beat Red! Red was defeated. And as a reward for all his hard work, Spook, I decided to permit you to evolve. Finally. Spook is now a Haunter. After soloing the entire Johto region, after soloing the Elite Four, the Kanto region, and finally the original champion Red, Spook is now a Haunter. A fitting reward for all his service. So guys, I hope you like this playthrough and that you'll stick around for more. I'm probably going to do more challenges here in the next coming months, so feel free to subscribe and watch my other videos if you want. I try with other videos. I know it's not all Pokemon, but, you know, I do stuff. It's okay if you don't. I don't mind. I'm just glad you're here now, watching this. We had fun, right? Everybody had a good time? Everybody supporting, everybody being nice to each other? Listen, you better be being nice down there, because why are you going to come on a Pokemon video and be rude? Like, who does that? Come on, man. Just be cool. No one here is trying to make fights or, you know, cause trouble. We're just here enjoying something that we all love. And isn't that what life is really all about? Ultimately, being who you are, not being judged, and enjoying what you love to do, as long as that isn't hurting anybody else. Also, many people mentioned that I mentioned that last time, and asked if I was being serious, and yeah, I am being serious. That's not a joke. I really believe all that. So, yeah. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe, as I'm sure you all know. And until next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell. Happy Halloween! Woo!